Hello.
Hello.
Nice to meet you.
Good to be here.
Yes. So, tell us your story.
My name is Isaac Borenstein. I come from Radom, Poland. We were a big family, 3 sisters and 3 brothers. So many things happened to me during the war. When the Germans came into Poland, I ran over to Russia. I ran as far as Krasnodar. There I worked as a carpenter. In 1941, when Hitler invaded Russia, I joined the Russian army. We were sent to a place near Kremenchug. Before we could fight, we were caught in a pocket and were surrounded by Germans. I am sorry that I did not get a chance to fight. When we surrendered, I was with 35 other Jews. Only 2 survived the shootings. The rest were picked up by the Germans and killed. So I decided to change my name from Borenstein, which was a Jewish name, to Boranowski, which was a Polish name. As we were marching from thousands of other men into a prisoners of war camp, I escaped. We were being marched around a corner, and I jumped out of the line onto the sidewalk. A Russian woman took me aside and hid me. She repaired my shoes. I ran to a little town whose name I can't remember now, but translated, it meant 5 houses. At a hospital nearby, I worked for bread and soup. I joined the partisans. However, before I got a chance to fight, a Russian teacher, a good friend of mine named Romanov, got drunk. When he was drunk, he talked too much. The Germans squeezed him, and he gave up the names of 60 people. I was arrested in the forest and taken to a prison in Dnipropetrovsk. In jail, somebody told them I looked like a Jew. They brought me down into a death chamber of the jail. There in the basement of the jail was a dark room. It was maybe 6 feet wide and 25 feet long. Just 1 brick was taken out for air. They kept me down there for 10 days. During this time, they brought in 3 Jewish transports and then took them out to shoot them. In the jail, there was a young girl named Ira Pogorowska. I will never forget her. She was about 19. She had blonde hair and was very beautiful. How did I know this? I saw her face in the light when they took us to the toilet. She nursed me when I could not move because of the beatings. They used to throw bread down there for us. I was so weak I could not get any. Ira held me in her arms and protected me from the other prisoners. She saved my bread and fed me. She was half Jewish and a member of the Communist Youth Organization. They took her out of jail and she never returned. I tried to find Ira Pogorowska after the war. One time I was in a train station and an old lady asked me if she could get a ride to Ira's hometown, Dnipropetrovsk. I asked her if she knew her. She said she was Ira Pogorowska's grandmother. I told her what I knew. She said Ira was never heard from again. In the death chamber, I was tortured. I was given cold showers. I was beaten with leather straps until my skin turned the color of wood. A vocal-doucher said, "This guy has been beaten so much that if he was a Jew, he would have already confessed." They believed me that I was a Russian soldier, so they put me back in a regular cell. There in the cell, a Polish officer recognized me as being a Jew. He started yelling, "Jew! Jew! Jew!" The Russian prisoners beat that officer so much that he did not say anything. It was pure luck that I survived. I was put into a labor camp near Dnipropetrovsk in 1943. A Jewish fellow told me the story of his life. He did not know I was a Jew. He said, "I know I am not going to be alive, but you, a Russian, may be alive." Later, they took him to the washroom with 49 other Jews, 25 men and 24 women. They undressed them, but left their socks on. They put potato sacks over their heads. They put them on trucks, and we never saw them again. You don't think I dream about that, fellow? The Russian army was coming near us, so they put us on a train. We were taken to Auschwitz, where the train stopped for half a day, but there was no room in Auschwitz for us, so they took us to Mauthausen. At Mauthausen, there was a checkpoint. Good, you went to work. Bad, you went to the ovens. Half bad, you went to the hospital. I was lucky. I had typhoid. They put me in the camp hospital which was a place for moderately sick people to recover. In the hospital, a Pole recognized that I was Jewish and wanted to help me. He knew I wouldn't survive if I stayed in the hospital, so he sent me out on the next transport to a subcamp of Mauthausen called Schiller Rebbe Zif. There we were put to work building a factory inside of a mountain. I never knew what the factory was for. One day the mountain exploded. No more factory. From there I was sent to another subcamp of Mauthausen called Linz 3. I was going to work for the Hermann Göring Works, cutting out tank wheels with a torch. How many hangings were there? In Linz 3 they hung 6 Russian boys. The SS put us out to watch. You cannot see anything. You do not feel anything. They make you feel like an animal. It was a slaughterhouse. Absolutely not describable. How can you forget? While we were working, I heard this guard say, "I am going to kill one of them, so the other men will work harder." His gun was pointed at me. I understood German, but I could not let him know that I did. I just kept on working. When the other guard said, "He is a soldier just like you, a soldier who wants to go home to his family." Once my block official got mad at me because I got some extra soup. He said, "I'll fix you up. I'll put you on the transport with the dead." While we were waiting for the transport, an SS man with a dog came by. He saw my low number, which was 37,200 something. I can't remember it exactly now. The low number meant that I had been in the camp for a long time. It was an unwritten law of the camp that you got some respect with a low number. SS man said, "You have time to die. Get back." On the block. Again, I was saved. They put me in a commando, a bomb commando. This meant we dug out unexploded bombs the English and the Americans threw down. In 6 months, we dug out 64 bombs. We had one explosion. We were about 150 feet away. I was saved. We were working on a barge during the last days of the war when the American army came in. We filled up sacks of oats or wheat. Once we filled up these sacks, we carried them from the barge to the train. There, at the last minute, I was a lucky man again. While we were sleeping on one side of the barge, our SS guards were sleeping on the other side. On this, the last night, we heard an officer come onto the barge. He told the guards to get rid of us. Then they would have to go and fight to defend Germany. We knew what this meant. To get rid of us meant to kill us. All night we could hear the officer and the guards arguing back and forth about what to do with us. The guards were older men. They did not want to fight. They argued that since he had taken us from Linz 3, they had to account for us by returning us to the same camp. At about 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, the officer finally gave in. The guards marched us to a train. A train stopped in a little town called Wells. Around noon, an American soldier came by. He looked to us to be about 6'6". He was a colored man. He ordered us to gather up the rifles, to break all of them except for 4, and take the SS prisoners back to Linz 3. I could not go into the camp. My emotions. I went inside a store where I found a 10-pound sack of sugar. I took a pot and made a fire out in a field. I put the sugar in some water and fed myself sugar and water for 3 days. After 3 days, I said to myself it was time to go home. On the way home to Poland, I came to a little bridge over the Elbe River. On the other side was a Russian soldier. He asked me where I was going. I told him I was going home. He said, "No, you are not going home. You are going into a Russian army." So I looked at him like I am crazy. I asked him, "Who is going to carry home the rifle or the rifle me?" I weighed just 90 pounds. He said, "Don't worry, you have bones, the meat will grow." Then he took me to the army. I was in the Russian army for 14 months. I worked on a train taking back Russian prisoners of war from Germany to Russia. After I got out of the army, I went back to our house in Rodham. At our home, everything looked exactly as if I had left yesterday. Even the furniture. Everything in the house was the same. There was just strange people living there. I could not stay. I passed through the whole town. Out of 34,000 Jewish people, I could not even find 10 Jewish people left. Our neighbor had a letter from my older brother, Abe, who was the only other Borenstein to survive the war. He had survived Buchenwald concentration camp and was sick. He was recovering in a sanatorium in Germany. When I went to see him, I told the people there that I wanted to surprise him. When he came down, I saw a broken man. It was hard. I did not recognize him. He was just a broken-down man. My brother told me that after I left Radom for Russia at the beginning of the war, the Germans had come looking for me. When they couldn't find me, they looked up another Jewish boy who lived near us, who had the same name as I did, Borenstein. We were not exactly friends, but we knew each other. The Germans came to my house looking for me, but since they could not find me, they looked him up. They took him out and shot him by the door of the house. A Borenstein is a Borenstein. Can you imagine? I do not know if I feel guilty. It is hard to talk about this. It hurts. Abe and I lived in Stuttgart, Germany, for a few years. I met my wife there. She is also a survivor from Radom. We came to New Orleans in 1951. Abe and I started a woodworking shop. We brought rental apartments. Abe wrote a testament about what happened to our family during the war, but I still have not read it. Abe died in 1974. Sometimes I try to go back to my past, and it is unbelievable for me. Sometimes I think I'm just dreaming.
That was an amazing story. It must have been very hard for you to live through all that.
Yes, it was.
I'm very surprised that you have made it out in your well conditions, and
Yes.
I hope that you remember all those people and keep well.
Yes.
Thank you for coming here today.
It's a pleasure.
Nice to meet you.